Mike Huckabee. He's the former governor of Arkansas, joins us now. Good morning to you, Governor. So what do you make of the infighting within the Democrat Party, this age issue?
Well, as a Republican, I enjoy it. I'll pop some popcorn, put my feet up, and watch. I think it's interesting, though, when Jim Clybrun says that it's biblical for him to stay on, I'm thinking, biblical? I've heard a lot of different metaphors, but biblical ain't one of them when it relates to anything Congress. But I guess there could be at least one maybe biblical connection. Methuselah, the oldest person that is recorded in the Bible. Maybe that's what Clybrun is up to. I mean, their leadership is basically over the age of 80, kind of pushing up toward 90, for God's sake. So maybe he just wants to take a stand for, the elderly and those who have been in Medicare for at least 25 years. Who knows? It's an interesting position that he's taken.
Well, the issue of age has come up in politics in general, Governor. And do you think there is perhaps the time now where we should start thinking about the new generation? Your daughter, Governor of Arkansas now, she would be the new generation. Is it time for some of those who have been around a long time, and yes, they have a lot of experience, but should they move on and give younger people an opportunity?
Well, sure. I think that's part of the circle of life, as we learned from Simba and the Lion King. It's the way it works. Look, I think there's a value in, some of us old gray hairs. We've learned a few things, been around the block a few times, been beat up some. But there's also something to be said for the creative ideas that younger people bring. A good mix is ideal, and, it's not bad to have some old folks hanging around, but really, I think it is time for a new generation to take hold.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? And, let's talk about the Republicans. We talked about the infighting with the Democrats, but where are the Republicans right now? I would argue they have a much stronger bench than the Democrats. There's no doubt about that. But is there still this split between those very loyal to, say, Donald Trump and those perhaps more centrist?
I think it's not so much about Donald Trump, the person. I think it's about the policies. And a lot of people have never understood that what made Donald Trump an attractive and a very popular president was that his policies were for working class people. He helped transform the Republican Party from the wine and cheese country club crowd, the one that would sit around and hang out with the swells, the Liz Cheneys of the world, who loved the Georgetown cocktail parties, but who didn't really know anybody, that came home fully sweating through their clothes every day. And instead, the Republican Party is now unapologetically a party that is pro-life, pro-worker, pro-blue collar, and pro-America. What a novel idea. That's the party that I think people want to keep.
Great place to end it, and great, as always, to talk to you this morning, Governor Mike Huckabee. Thank you so much.